Hey everyone, this is Karen with Naturally with Karen, and I'm hoping that you can hear me. Is it going, Zawa?
Yeah.
Awesome. How are you today? What's going on? What's new? I'm going to move this over so I can even be so good as to maybe see some of the, see some of the chats here too, in case anyone's got something to say. Oh, here we go. I think I move it this way. Here we go. Bear with me just a half a sec. So maybe I can see. I think I can move it over this way. Yep, there we go. Okay, all right. So bless up everyone. Naturally with Karen. I love dogs, canines, dogs. I've been a raw feeder for well over 20 years. I've been doing executive level coaching for humans and dogs for decades. And every day, even on a rainy day like today, I get the dogs out. I have a whole pack of 3 beautiful dogs, 160-pound Rottweiler with a 31-inch neck whose name is Faya, and he is 6 as of July last month. Luna Avalon Blackfoot, who is a German Shepherd mix, and she's pretty much all white. And she's 6 this month in August of 2018, if you're watching this later. And I have little Pablo, who's a 5-pound teacup applehead Chihuahua, who goes everywhere with his big brother and sister in the pack. And today, we went to Jay Cooke State Park. It was kind of drizzly, but we went across the big swinging bridge with Devin, Anthony, myself, and Luna and Pablo. We left Fire at home. I take him off the leash sometimes, and we go hiking a little bit and deeper in. Sometimes people can get kind of intimidated by a Rottweiler, so we did leave him at home. So today he stayed home, but he always goes out. So it was super fun, super fun. I made us each a cup of some organic black currant tea that I got at nuts.com, and I love it. So I just put about 1/4 of a cup in the water, let it simmer for about 30 minutes, and poured each of us a to-go reusable, recyclable cup. And we all went hiking in the woods for about a good hour and a half. The dogs loved it. It's good for us. It's good for the dogs. Then last night I had a consult with a beautiful woman. I love her dearly. She has a doggy business, so she's really knowledgeable about dogs. And she comes to me for sometimes for issues that are a little perplexing. She'd already gone to see her vet, which was a good idea to check it out, but her dog hadn't been eating for about 3 weeks. And yet dog was still having bowel movements, and in fact, they were still even formed, and they looked fine. I asked for a description because we talk pee and poop, just like humans. And we talked about a great many things. I asked her if there was any blood tests taken, and she said, nope, I got a really big bill from the vet. I went home. It took me considerable time to drive. She lives in a big city in the state of Washington. And the vet sent her home with special food. We all know about special food. And I think a lot of people believe that special food really does something. And for me, 99% of the time it doesn't. 99% of the time it's high-priced junk, okay? And I love and respect veterinarians, especially those like in the courses I'm taking right now to be a raw food certified for canines and acute herbalism for canines. I'm taking these courses right now because it's nice to have certifications, keep learning, but I don't believe in the special food, and I don't believe in the science diet. So in this consult last night, she said, my dog hasn't been eating for 3 weeks. She's an older dog. Gosh, we want to make sure we do the right thing, right? So everything else seemed just fine, but she's someone that I did a consult with for this older dog, this female, maybe about a year ago. We did a hair test for her dog, and it looked to me like her dog had some vaccinosis going on, which is pretty common. It's happening with our children. It's happening with our canine companions. And what it looks like is on the hair test, I can see elevated aluminum. I can either see elevated mercury or I can see some mineral derangement. And I explain what all that means because it sounded funny to me in the beginning too. But I explain it, I give people the science behind it so they don't feel like it's a bunch of fluffy stuff and crunchy. And so she had 3 hair tests done for hers, her partner's, and someone else's dog. And so it was really interesting. So piece by piece in this 45-minute consult, we were able to cover a lot of ground in executive level coaching. So she booked a consult with me through naturallywithkaren.com. We had it for last night at 8 o'clock my time, and she's on the West Coast where I'm originally from for 42 years, so it's 6 o'clock her time. And I asked a few questions. I asked her to share with me what was going on so I could really hear and gather. I'm writing down some notes with my pen. And then I asked about, well, she said, and she wakes up at 2:30 in the morning and, she does this, drinks water and throws up. I said, well, pretty common 2:30? She said, it's almost like clockwork. I introduced her to the Chinese system. Traditional Chinese medicine was a big influence on me for about 5 years. And I love it, I adore it, I respect it. I love acupuncture, acupressure, tuina, all of it. I respect it. And I asked traditional Chinese doctors when I was being treated at 5 branches in Santa Cruz what a lot of what I was experiencing really meant. So it's good to learn, and that's why you're here. 2:30 in the morning, between 1 and 3 a.m., as I've really educated my clients for the last 20 plus years, is the time of the liver. So I started formulating in my mind, okay, dog hasn't wanted to eat for about 3 weeks, still having full regular sized bowel movements, they're logs, Dog still feels pretty energetic and happy despite the fact that she's a teenage dog, treated so well by mama, And mama's not rich, but mama loves her baby, just like I do, Sometimes they're like our babies because they don't get to do or have a lot of the freedoms that we do out in the Western world. They don't get to just walk around and do what they want. They rely a lot on us for what they need and for what they want. So we talked, number 1 in this video, what time were things happening? The time of the liver. We reminded that, in fact, she had just become a raw feeder for a teenage dog about a year ago. And what did the vet say? The veterinarian said, no on the raw food diet, no on an older dog. And I said, yes, it works amazing. We clarified a few issues about food, took us about 5 minutes there. We talked about a supplement that she was using, and I'm not going to go into the name of it right now. I might later. But as I looked it up, it was a steroid, and it was an intramuscular injectable. And to be perfectly honest and candid and direct with you, that wasn't really doing any good either. I looked at one of the new food sources that she had begun about 6 months ago. It was a dehydrated raw food for dogs, and it looked really outstanding. It had pumpkin and coconut oil, fish, and all the good stuff in it. But there was a form of calcium in it that is known as a synthetic salt to cause a decreased appetite. So we factored that into the equation too. So part of this live stream is to show you that you might look on the website and say, oh my gosh, $125 for a consult? Oh, I don't really know what a shaman does. But if I didn't do really well for other people, I wouldn't eat and I wouldn't be able to feed my pack. And it's not get rich wages, but what it is, it makes me feel good to spend this quality time with you and help you to deduce what's really going on. In a way, I'll be very, very frank and direct. You're probably not going to find anywhere else. Okay? Now, clients came in that over and over, they had King Charles Cavalier Spaniels, and they became obese, and they had liver issues. And people had dogs that they adopted far too young, and the dogs were put down by the age of 3 or 5 or 6 because they were biting people, little dogs, okay? I said, please, let me work with you and your dog. I can save this animal's life. And if you cannot rehabilitate the dog and it doesn't feel comfortable, there were times that I offered to rehabilitate the animal and then a rehoming fee, which would cover sometimes to $250 worth of my expenses, probiotics, sometimes a wormer, whatever, right? But the time spent rehabilitating, and this is something I've done in the past for at least 3 decades. Sometimes I just take in an animal at a time. Someone's going to put the animal down and I've rehomed them, because you can't take in all the animals of the world, but you can kind of give them a little bit of a leg up, right? Okay, so vets are selling Science Diet. Absolute junk. That's like you feeding your teenager McDonald's every single day. It's horrible food. I don't mind saying it. When I hear people do a consult and they tell me Science Diet, I think, okay. Gosh, there was a time I didn't know any better, but if I can help you, right? If I can help you to figure out that maybe the Science Diet is behind it and I can explain why, or maybe you can feed the Science Diet part of the time, maybe, and I can show you how to be a primordial ancestral feeder. For a lot of people, boy, they don't feel comfortable, taking a chicken leg to a dog, and I'm not really the most comfortable with supporting factory farming. I mean, that really gets under my skin. But canines are carnivores, and I think they can be converted to vegan, and that's going to really go against the comfort zone of a lot of people that, like myself, I have been, working with, packing with dogs, especially big bully breeds and huge dogs and wolf dogs, and for now 57 years, and monkeys. I had monkeys earlier in my life too, and cats, a lot of Manx, Maine Coons, but a lot of rescues of pit bulls, Presa Canario, Cane Corso, a lot of pit bulls, several Rottweilers, dogs, wolf dogs, that, oh no, you've got to always keep this animal chained up, they'll never have recall. They did, In fact, I want to say that I think if you have a puppy and you farm that puppy off to a trainer for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, so that you can get the dog to have commands, you're not going to like me too much for saying this, but you really shouldn't have a dog, because what you're building with a dog, a canine, and they are so intelligent and so intuitive, is you're building a bond, just like with a baby. You're bringing someone else's baby into your human home, oftentimes with no other canines in the home. And they've got to learn how to figure out the whole human thing while they're still a little baby. And so I want to be sure to bring the compassion, the empathy for these beautiful young animals, okay, to help people a little bit with the feeding, why bones are so important, why bones need to be, according to the course I'm taking right now, excuse me, about 12% of a canine's diet, okay? The meat on the bones provide enzymes which clean the teeth. So can you imagine a poor little dog who is sitting inside of a house waiting for someone to work all day, every day, waiting by themselves? The person comes home, maybe not always in the best mood, even though they don't take it out on their beautiful companion. And every day when they get up, it's a bowl of dried graham cracker kibble sitting there on the floor. Sometimes we don't see ourselves as having enough time, but I've got an alkaline filtration system on my sink for less than $100 and a stainless steel bowl. So especially in the summer when everyone's got goopy mouth, the dogs, I can take a cleaning sponge, clean that bowl up really good, and maybe change it twice a day with filtered water, which is so important because, gosh, arthritis, fluoride, chlorine, bromides, chemicals in the city waters, lead. We want to get that stuff out. Okay, so what else was I going to talk about here? Oh my goodness, shock collars, okay? I am a big lover of dog parks. And I know when you go to dog parks, There's a lot of different kinds of people with a lot of different kinds of dogs and different ideas about why their dogs are there. But the biggest, and only conflict that I ever have, and you should hear the responses I get to it, are would you please unleash your dog in an off-leash dog park? That can really get me kind of hot. Now, why? Why is this important? But when you go into a dog park, you've got an area that, you open the latch and you go inside that little area. And before you get into the dog park, you've got another latch that you open up and you go into the dog park. That's the leashing and unleashing area. Now, if you have a golden retriever and you've got a little chihuahua like Pablo and you've got an easygoing German Shepherd mix like mine, you're going to be just fine. And you'd think, well, God, what's the big deal? Why does she got to be so legalistic about it all? But when you put the leash on your dog halfway through or a quarter of the way or before you get into the enclosure to leave the dog park where you leash your animal, and someone like me has a dog that has a higher prey drive, okay, that starts to set up a trigger with dogs that are very much empowered animals. They've eaten an ancestral diet. They have a lot of autonomy. They're not aggressive dogs by any means, not by any measure. In fact, in the dog park, he's sitting on people's foot. He's wanting to be petted. But when you put that leash on an animal, you're connecting yourself to the animal's neck, which is a very vulnerable area for you or for them. And now that territory that you've created with a leash and a collar that you're holding on to has changed the dynamic to an animal who's powerful, intact, perhaps has prey drive, and it could cause a problem. So for that reason, I'm going to make a special request to anyone that's listening to this. I hope that you leave me some comments. It's not that big of a deal to even take your dog by the collar if it's hard to get your dog out of the dog park and walk into that enclosure and then put the leash on and walk out to your car. Or if no one's there, the dog can run out to your car if you've got a good rapport. I don't take my dogs to obedience classes, my companions, to obedience classes for dogs because I find them ludicrous. I do not take them to a trainer because it's me. I want to bond with them. They bond with me. How does that happen? When we get up in the morning and I make sure that they get their probiotic, they're fed a good diet, okay? They get out and they get exercise, they get brushed, combed, regularly bathed, they get to sleep in a comfortable space, they get to eat in a place that's not full of stress and chaos because dogs don't like that. And wolf dogs won't eat at all if you've got a lot of chaos around. So it's important that you know that dog parks are so fun. If you've never been to one, you've got a little puppy or an older dog, go have fun. The dogs want to be together. Don't just go and play ball with just your dog unless nobody's there. Let your dog go commingle and socialize with all the other dogs and be a dog. They don't get that much time to do that, okay? That makes me so happy, is to see them happy and having fun, and all of us being out in a beautiful natural area. Now, some of my favorites are what we call, and pardon me, but it's Shit Beach in Santa Cruz, and that was a half a block from where I used to live on West Cliff Drive in Santa Cruz. Shit Beach. But up here in Minnesota now, I like the Battle Creek Dog Park in St. Paul, Minnesota, in the Twin Cities area, 25 acres, and I like the Arlington Arkwright Dog Park in St. Paul, and I like the Jean Duluth Dog Park up here close to my home. And now Cloquet has a business that set up a small dog park at the Warming House in Cloquet, which is a little coffee shop and burger place. The burger place is open in the summer. So big up to Gordy's for opening up that dog park and helping us out, because while the city has spent a ton of money on parks and things, we don't have a dog park, okay? Shock collars. I'm seeing more and more and more people. Shock collars. Ouch. Nobody wants to have someone have a little remote control and, buzz you. Ow. Ooh, that just doesn't even feel right. I can't believe it. I mean, I can't imagine putting this on a puppy, but somehow people are being trained and they're being sold these devices, and over and over and over again I hear it doesn't hurt the dog, it's just a little teeny tiny shock. But come on, man, nobody wants something around their neck that feels like that. Nobody wants that. Not your dog, not you. Nobody wants something on their neck like that. There's other ways by spending time and building a bond. That's what I'm going to encourage you to do. And if you don't have the time to do that, please don't bring home a dog. If you live out in the country and you've got a big electric fence, and I get that, okay? It corresponds with the electric fence. It's important. You can't have your dog getting shot by the neighbor. Man, that's probably the only exception. Okay, so that is a little bit about dogs, dog parks, shock collars. I do these canine consults that I've done for many, many, many years. They're affordable. You can find me at www.naturallywithkaren.com. When you click on the tab on the top that says consults, you'll click down and you'll see it says a canine wellness form, or click canine. If you're doing it for your companion canine versus yourself, you fill it out and click the submit button and it comes to me via email. And on my website under hair testing, you can see it's $100, and you click on the canine hair test, HTMA, which is a hair tissue mineral analysis, and you're going to find out if your dog has had too much aluminum, mercury, if their minerals are all cattywampus, If you love your companion and you want to share many more great years, don't buy all the hype that you have to have special foods, that, 9 times out of 10, you don't need a shock collar, you don't need obedience class. Build a bond, okay? Feed your dog ancestrally. If you don't know what it is, have a consult, learn, Google it, check your smartphone, okay? So that's what I want to share today. I love dogs so much. And at times, luckily with being self-employed right now, I'm really sure to take them out every single day like I have for many, many, many years. Even in the winters here, I had to learn how to do that when it was so cold and icy outside. But it gives them a sense of mental relief. They can't just sit in your house all day. In most homes in America, there's big blaring TVs, there's people having arguments, there's people who are drinking alcohol. I go to PetSmart to bathe my dogs in Duluth oftentimes, because they've got a big step-up self-serve where you can bathe your own dog. And it's kind of interesting because, excuse me just a second. What are we doing? Excuse me. And so it's kind of interesting because you're able to, bathe your dog and use a shampoo and take care of them right there. And so $15, they used to be $10. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this live stream. Really know yourself, heal yourself, advocate for you and your canine companions. You don't need a dog trainer, okay? You might need someone just to kind of briefly, give you some tips and insights, change the feeding, educate you about supplements and vaccines. We vaccinate our animals way too much. It's my opinion they don't need any vaccines at all, none, okay? But of course, we live in a world where it's legally mandated that our dogs have a rabies shot. The Rabies Challenge folks did some investigation, some double-blind science on that. Other places that I respect and veterinarians that are holistic, the small handful of them that there are, because anyone trained with the American Medical Association or the American Veterinary Association is going to probably think a little bit differently. So if you go to your veterinarian, in conclusion here, and they say, oh, absolutely not, bones can splinter, you just let them know that if your dog has good, stable teeth and they're reasonably healthy, that they can start with raw, meaty bones, chicken wings, smaller chicken legs, depending on the size of the dog, and I'll help you with that, okay? If the dog's teeth are really fragile, the dog's really old, and now it's built up so much calculus and plaque from eating grains and dried kibble, maybe it's not a great idea, and maybe we'll go for some ground food, okay? And we'll mix up some supplements in that ground food, and I'll get you really tuned into what you need to know. And then you can use the vet and myself to help you, okay? So I'm going to move my microphone over here and wish you a beautiful day. And I hope this has been really informative. I'd love to hear your comments, and I welcome you to subscribe at Naturally with Karen. So long.